back into the business, and it seemed that I was always destined to be in the business and have never, ever, ever left it. So growing up, I left school early. I didn't see that there was much opportunity for me to stay in school. I wasn't a great student. I struggled to be a B student, and went to work early. I went to work for an agency called Fred Thompson Sales right out of school. I have the distinction, and I think I still hold it, of making more calls than any other salesman. There were 6 of us that were hired at the time. And in those years, you were a detail salesman. In order to get a listing of your product at one of the major supermarkets, you had to travel the country and get an order for a dozen here and a dozen there and a dozen there to show that the product was worthwhile enough to be listed. So after the first couple of weeks of business, my boss called me into the office, which is always a scary thing, and he said, "You're making 4 times the calls that all of the other salesmen are making." Well, in those days I had a 67 Mustang. It was filled with samples of licorice. Licorice is a really good laxative, and I kept eating the licorice out of the back of the car while I was traveling all around Ontario. So I had to stop more than all the other salesmen put together, and while I was there, I took an order, and it worked out pretty well. From there, I went to a company called Miles Laboratories. They were the big item at that time, and still is, Alka-Seltzer. And I became the top salesman on the very first day of my employment at Miles Laboratories. I'm not bragging. It's just that it was kind of a strange circumstance, and it talks to Frank and who you know. I had worked at Davis Distributing early on as a packer in the basement, packing up boxes of orders, and through that got to know all the people that were involved. Davis was involved at that time with the operation of McDermott's discount stores, and the top guy at McDermott's discount stores was Jim Gowland. He had a habit of, whenever a salesman came to sell him something, he would immediately say, "Let's go look at your trunk." So he'd open the trunk and he'd take all the samples that the salesman had for hundreds of accounts to replace goods and whatever they needed. So I said to my boss, O'Callaghan, "I have an introduction to these people. I know them well. If you'd like a good order, put 6 dozen Alka-Seltzer," which was a good amount of money at that time, 30 cents a piece or something. And at those days, I was earning $60 a week and happy to get it. We took the 6 dozen Alka-Seltzer, and he couldn't understand this situation at all because you had to be involved. So I go in to see Jim Gallen. I sit in his office, and he was just ready. He says, "Let's go to your trunk." And we went to the trunk. We opened the trunk. He saw the 6 dozen Alka. He takes the whole case, and I said, "Jim, please don't do that. I need that for all my customers. I just started." He says, "Don't worry, we'll get you an order." So I cried and about these 6 dozen Alka-Seltzer, and took an order for 250 dozen Alka-Seltzer. At that time, you would go to a Loblaws and get a dozen to put on the shelf. So and then you were happy that you got an order for a dozen because they sold some down. The McDermott's discount chain, interestingly enough, was a variation of what we do today. And it was the first to kind of start merchandising and using the ends and piling the goods up and having all their inventory for 6 months on the shelf so they wouldn't have to go back to the well. Get the best price, put it up there, and let it sell. So I brought the order in for 250 dozen, which was more than all the salesmen put together had done for the previous month, all the salesmen. So I immediately became, on the very first day, the top salesman, and my boss at that time, his name was O'Callaghan, said, "If you need anything you need from the warehouse, just let's go. I mean, if you do this again, can you do it tomorrow?" So it's an interesting aside, but really the business is a simple business, and I'd like to make the theme today a little strange. I've always lived by the premise that success in business is luck, timing, and brains, and in that order. The most important thing is I'd rather be lucky than smart. And timing, you can have the right merchandise, you can have the right idea, you can have the right product, but if the timing is wrong, you're not going to succeed. And it's really tough to work against the luck, timing, and brains aspect of the business. So, Gateway. I was working at Davis Distributing, and I said to my boss at the time, there's a huge influx of Korean people coming into the country at that time. They all needed a job. They couldn't go to IBM because their language skills weren't great. They couldn't go and else because they didn't have experience, and they were, like all immigrants, newcomers to the country. So they came to places like Davis Distributing, who was a wholesale distributor of the goods that are sold in variety and convenience stores, and they were begging for stores. So I said to my boss, this doesn't require a lot of thought. Why don't we source the stores, open them, give them to the waiting customers, and thereby ensure that we have the business for the distribution and supply for those stores. Well, he took me out to the warehouse. He was a visual guy. And he said, you see all these 200 people working here, we're busy, we're filling orders. We have no interest in being a retailer, even though pretty well every other wholesaler, like Oshawa Wholesale at the time, who supplied their own supermarkets, Couche-Tard, and it wasn't Couche-Tard at that time, but all of the people in Quebec were supplying their own retail chains. And he quite, emphatically pointed out, don't waste your time on any of that. Just go on your own way, and let us do our own business without interference. So I said, okay. I brought in a young fella who became my partner, and we started on the weekends hammering together stores. Bay Smoke, Young Variety, Lorne Park Variety, Kingston Road News, and we would hammer the stores together with metal fixtures. And sure enough, while we were setting up the store and putting the sign up, a Korean person would come and buy the store from us for $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. We actually mostly never got a chance to open the stores. There was such a rush to find employment for these people that the stores were automatic sales. So we did this, probably about 15 stores that we did all together. None of them were Gateway. So the start of Gateway was that we went for an opportunity at the Sun Life building. They were looking for a retailer to operate their newsstand in a beautiful office tower downtown. This was not our expertise, and we didn't know really how to present it. The fella that was the leasing agent for the Sun Life said, I'd like you guys to open the store. You have the experience. You work for Davis Distributing. I see that you're knowledgeable about the business. We'd love to give you the store, but you cannot sell it. You cannot transfer it, because there was such a demand for the stores that these stores were transferring 2 or 3 times for a profit for everyone before they even opened. Some of them, and even after they opened and they had sales, they even sold for more money. So he says, I don't want you flipping it. I don't want to be doing contracts every 2 weeks for another operator. If you sign with me and take the store, you're it. Well, I didn't know what to do. So I got a franchise agreement from Pizza, and we copied it, made it work for us, and didn't have legal fees or anything to worry about.
Nobody here from Pizza.
Nobody
right?
here from Pizza. Right? And we did a management agreement. We did a management agreement for the individual operator. This was even before we decided to franchise it, but we did a management agreement, and the fee for that was $1,000 a month. And my partner and I were used to hammering together a store and splitting up the profits, taking $1,000 each home. Here, we got $1,000 a month fee, not to operate the store, just to have the person standing there. So we were the first person and the first company in our trade segment to franchise from that location, which was lucky. The timing was right, because we couldn't do what we were doing. I may still together today with my partner be hammering together stores on the weekends. If this fellow from the Sun Life didn't tell us exactly what he needed and made us adapt in order to operate the store as a franchise.
And how about the name?
And the name, he gave us the name as well. He says, I have a name for you. The store is right at the gateway of our building, at the bottom of the escalator on the main entrance. Can you call it Gateway? I said, sure, why not? So he not only gave us our first really good location, he gave us the name, and he told us how he wanted the store set up and what he wanted us to carry and how to operate, and that was the beginning. From there, we did lots and lots of stores, one after the other after the other. Our royalties kept rolling in. It was a good time. It was a good concept. We were the first in the franchise business, so it really took until we got to a position where we approached the TTC. They were having an RFP for the operation of the newsstands within the TTC. There was about 20 some odd operations of newsstands currently operated in the TTC by a company called Garfield, who've been there since the TTC opened in 1953. 40 years he was operating the newsstands in the TTC. And we had no chance and no thought that we were going to be the successful bidder. We just thought that Garfield was going to be there till the end of time. Once again, it was lucky that they were looking for something that served the consumers a little more than having 20 stores open of 70 potential locations. Our franchise operation was the only kind of operation that could open all the stores because the owners themselves were not paying staff. They were not operating stores for somebody else. They were their own operators, and they worked hard. They got their own profit, and the franchise system allowed us to open all the stores in every location in the TTC, and today we have over 75 locations, including restaurants and cafes and bakeries and lottery booths and newsstands. So it was a very interesting time when being at the right place at the right time with the right image and a little bit of conversational skills got us the bid, the successful bid, and we're there today, and we're doing well, and we're pleased to say that we've shown every other retailer the way to make money in the TTC when not one retailer of the day was interested in being in there because it just wasn't profitable. It wasn't profitable under a corporate operation, couldn't make any money. So the best thing about our business is that it's a simple business. We as a retailer, we find the locations for our franchisees. We turn it over to them. We build it out. We manage it with our staff, making sure that they're in compliance with all of our programs. But basically, they're running their own business. They're investing the inventory. They're investing in the build-out. They're investing their time and their effort and their sweat equity to make the business work. We're taking a very small portion in our royalties of all of the revenue that comes out of the business, and we developed a merchandising program which is unique in the industry, not only for Gateway, but for all of industries, including McDonald's and everyone else. And I'm going to have Noah talk to that very shortly because he was the one that worked from the beginning to develop that program. But I'm just going to tell one quick story about the way we got into the merchandising program. I'll let Noah expand on it. David and I were in Chicago. We were working, we put some ads in Chicago because we got an opportunity to do a bunch of stores with the Chicago Transit Authority. So we were there selling stores, signing contracts on the street on top of newspaper boxes with people who were interested in buying the franchise. And after a long day, maybe 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We've been working since 5 in the morning, meeting people and going over. We were walking down Michigan Avenue, the Magnificent Mile, and I saw the Wrigley building. And it was a magnificent building, and I said, let's go in and have a look at the inside. So we walk in, and immediately a security guard comes up to us to say, can I help you? Because we're looking around, we're like, real tourists. So I said to him, well, we just came in to find out where we could get some gum. So he says, well, you go up to the executive offices. They have a whole layout. They have a room there with all the gum and everything is laid out there. I said, great, let's go up. We'll see what the executive office is like. So we go up there, and we go into the reception, and sure enough, they had a whole rack of all of the Wrigley products laid out there. And the secretary says, can I help you? And a gorgeous, gorgeous girl, like a model, sitting in front of the Wrigley head office. So I was embarrassed to say that I just came up for some gum. So I said, is Bill Wrigley available? And she said, yes, he's here. Do you have an appointment? I said, no, I don't have an appointment. We were wandering by, and we thought we'd come in. We're in the business, and we're a customer of his, and we thought we'd like to see him. She says, sir, Mr. Wrigley does not see anyone without an appointment. And you have to set it up literally months in advance. So please, thanks very much, but here's the card and you can call for an appointment. I said, well, that's not acceptable. I'm here from out of town, and I'd just like to say hello and shake his hand. And now it's gone beyond the package of gum. Now it's a matter of pride. Right? So out comes the office manager, even more beautiful a woman. This Bill Wrigley knows how to hire staff.
His divorce is the most expensive in American history.
American history. That's true. That's true. And so the office manager comes out and says, I understand you want to see Mr. Wrigley. She said, that's Mr. Wrigley needs appointments months in advance. Please, my partner at this time was backing out because he figured that the next person we're going to see is security to throw us out, right? So I said, you go back and you come up with a different answer, because I've traveled a long way to meet with Mr. Wrigley, and I think he'd want to meet with me. So she goes back, and now yet another beautiful woman comes out who is Mr. Wrigley's personal secretary. And she says, I understand you're creating a fuss about seeing Mr. Wrigley. So this time I know what to say. I say, you go back and you tell Mr. Wrigley that if he was in Toronto and wandering by my office and knocked on the door, I would drop what I'm doing and I'd see him. And I'd have a little conversation with him. So now David says, Michael, please, can we go? Take a gum and go. And I said, no, we're gonna wait it out. So the door opens and out comes Bill Wrigley. He shakes my hand. He says, happy to see you. I understand you're a customer. It's just absolutely wonderful that you're here. Let me ask about your business and talk about how you like our products and all the rest of that. So we had a 15-minute conversation. He had a limousine waiting for him. And he says, I'm sorry, I would invite you into my office and we get a little snack or something, but I'm just on the way to an appointment and the limousine is waiting and we're going to the airport. And so we had a very nice conversation. And he said to me, I am so happy that you came here today to come up and see me. Nobody ever comes up to see me. So here's the punchline. The next day when we got back, we had been trying to establish ourselves with a number of strong wholesalers and manufacturers in order to get our programs for the gateway stores off and running. We get a call from the president of Wrigley Canada, and he says, can we come in? We need to talk to you guys. You guys are a big retailer and we're not representing you properly. And I said, what's this all about? What's going on? He says, well, I understand Michael, they called Noah, I understand Michael had a meeting with Bill Wrigley. And I said, and Noah said, yes, yeah, I understand he did. And he said, well, Mr. Wrigley wants to make sure we're taking care of you. So I think we got a better deal than Loblaws or Shoppers, with all due respect to the Shoppers people here. And it's who you know, it's luck, it's timing, and it's a little bit of foresight and some brains. But that really is. I'd like Noah to talk a little bit about.
That's a good lead-in to what I started doing at the company in 1994, and this slide is right on cue, because it's the luck, timing, brains thing yet again. If it wasn't for this crazy free gum experience, I don't know that we would have expanded our marketing promotional activity anywhere near as fast as we did. So in 1994, I joined the company right out of school, and that was also the year that we got the TTC, which my father talked about. So it really was the TSN turning point in our company's history. We went from 100 to 150 stores overnight, and the attention of those TTC stores, because there's 1.7 million people a day that go by them, it's the third largest transit system in North America, that really put us on the map for not only the marketing and promotional activity and the product promotion, but also we grew exponentially from 1994 at 150 stores to over 500 stores in 2 countries today. So part of what makes us unique in the franchise business is that we share all of that revenue. So of course Wrigley came to us with a deal, and they were one of the first companies to advertise and promote and sample and use our stores as beacons of opportunity for their products, and then everybody else fell into line. Then we established a program where we collect all of that money and we pool it, and twice a year we cut our stores checks for their participation, their share on a per store basis of all of that marketing and promotional money, whether it's a People magazine poster or display, or a National Post floor decal, or a Wrigley top shelf of all their products. That money comes into head office, and we reward our franchisees for their participation in all of those facilities. And we actually pay back more money to our franchisees individually than we collect from them in royalties. So it ranks us very, very high in the Fortune 500 franchises in North America because of this very simple and sharing capacity that we've developed over a period of time. So we're quite proud of that program from a position of being able to give back and almost guarantee our franchisees' success. Is that how, I'll just see what's next. So there's some great quotes here, and thank you to Frank for putting all this together. It's amazing. It's really, really fantastic. So that's the vendor relationship piece that we talked about. I'm very, I don't know how much time we have left, but one thing that I have to say is remarkable, and I know I'm extremely fortunate to be in a business that is family. My sister is my right-hand lady. My mother sold franchises up until she recently retired. My father, of course, is the founder, and I know it's extremely lucky and fortunate that I've had a mentor. Frank talked about Glenn being his mentor. I've certainly got one in-house, and thank goodness he's still here and still part of our business. He's good. So, but definitely pick a mentor, talk to people, get advice, make your own decisions about the direction that you want to go in. But it's an amazing thing to be a part of a family organization. I know that they're rare. They're extremely rare, and I can't say that there's anything that I'm more thankful for in my life to be a part of this growing and prosperous experience. Frank's laughing because he knows the dynamic, but it's a lot of fun. Thank you. So I don't know how much is left on the presentation. We've got a really fun thing that we did that maybe I'll just ask for the intro into our...
The next 2 slides are just all the different...
A few of our vendors. Yeah.
Oh, wait.
But we had a very, very fun experience, and it gives you a little bit of a story about Gateway. And maybe we'll just roll the tape.
Sure. You want it?
Yeah, sure.
Sound?
Yeah, it's coming.
Coming.
Popular newsstand chain puts 2-star.
This is a program, a takeoff on Undercover Boss.
2-star employees through a week-long job interview. An opportunity that can really benefit you.
It was a relief that we were in trouble.
This opportunity is a huge deal. Both equally deserve promotion. There's only one opportunity.
What?
It's good.
And they're determined to show bosses what they're made of. I need guys in this next
Candy?
Just try to be quick.
Oh.
Service issues.
Can you hurry up, please? He made a mistake there.
She's completely unqualified for the job. One will rise through the ranks, grab a new job, pay and perks. It's a good opportunity. But in an astonishing twist. What? Is it fair? Oh, gosh. The other is destined for something much greater. They'll get the keys to a brand new gateway newsstand and be the boss.
Cool. Actually, the second segment was more than what I was looking for, but it's okay. It's just basically talking about where we are, who we are, and maybe I'll take that part again.
Well, where we are. We're the largest operator of newsstands in North America. When we started out in the business, the behemoth was United Cigar Stores, and both here and Eastern Lobby Shops in the United States. They had a couple of hundred stores. David and I were hammering together fixtures. Now they are out of the business, gone on to bigger and better things. They're owned by Hachette, who has some 4,000 stores in Europe, and they've gone away from what we do. It left a vacuum that we were able to fill. We do 400 stores. We could do 3 times as many stores as we have, but we built the business carefully and steadily without trying to take too much risk, because the risk is always, where's the reward and where's the risk? So we operated it basically like a small business, expanded to a point where we were making sufficient money for ourselves. We had a good time while we were doing it. We brought up our families. Unlike most very successful people, we didn't spend 7 days a week, night and day, working the business, because that wasn't what was important to me. What was important to me is that our employees go home at 5 o'clock.
Except for Nancy.
Except for Nancy. Go home at 5 o'clock and have a dinner with their family, come back the next day fresh and ready to work. So those ethics were contrary to all the big people in the business, but we are happy that we did it that way. We have a group of people that stay with us year after year after year and don't leave us, because they do their job well and they're appreciated, and we appreciate those people, because it's your employees, your staff, and your ethics and your franchisees that make the business. It's not us. It's the community, and we're grateful. We're grateful for what we've achieved, and we're grateful that we have a little notoriety in the business, and that we're appreciated by our landlord community and our franchisees and our employees. And really, in the end, aside from the money, that's what really counts.
Perfect. I guess this is the time where we can turn it over for questions, if there's any.
Sure.
So, in any business, there's conflicts, and in a family business, there's different layers of that. Father, son, and sisters, and moms, and everything else. How do you guys handle conflicts if and when that arises?
Well, I'm over 200 pounds. So when I put my weight down, I expect it to be felt. But in the end, I think that the conflicts in businesses are there because they were there during and before the business and before the people started with the business. I brought my children up to value a work ethic. As Frank said, Noah was out early. If he wasn't going to go to camp in the summertime, or if he wasn't going to sit home watching television, he was going to be out doing something. So that work ethic for both my daughter and my son was started early, whether it be washing cars or selling cars or working for Wilson Niblett or doing something. He knew that he had to do something. And that establishes you in a position where when you bring them into the family firm, they understand what we want. They understand what they need in order to survive and to prosper. And you have to treat your children with respect and be firm when it's required to be firm. And hopefully it works out well.
That
Regular.
Unspoken.
Not necessary to say that.
He's got 4 sons, so
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
Do you have any spectacular fail stories that you could share with us to say, don't ever do this?
Well, we have lots of them. There's lots of, when you're in business, I think that over the 33 years that we've been in business, we probably opened 600 stores. Today we have 500, which means that 100 have gone by the wayside, either because they weren't viable or because it was a mistake. You can't pick correctly every time when you're looking at a location. Sometimes we were in the largest building, 2 million square foot building in Boston. The store was at the back of the building, and the landlord and everyone thought this is a slam dunk. All these people in the building, we can't lose. Well, we did lose. The rent was high. The store wasn't as viable as it should have been. It was hidden from the visitor traffic. So you learn these things as you go along. We had to close the store in a 2 million square foot building, which is unheard of. It's like First Canadian Place. How can you possibly close a place that's as busy as First Canadian Place? It just didn't make any sense. But there's lots of those. And we've also had very, very good franchisees and very, very poor franchisees. And we notice the difference. When a poor franchisee sells the store, somebody else comes in, it's the same traffic, it's the same venue, it's the same merchandise, it's the same system, and yet one operator will do 30 or 40% more business than the previous. And conversely, you can have a good operator sell a store and have the new franchisee take it down 30 or 40%. So that's our job, to point out the mistakes and to try to correct them. But nobody's perfect, and anybody who says that they've had a perfect career without any failures, I don't think so. But I do know one thing, and I'd like to leave this with you. It's a kind of a personal theory that I have, and from the people that I've talked to over the years, it seems to work. That everybody in their lifetime, especially for any young people here, most of you are really old, but for the young people here, I think that in every lifetime there's 3 opportunities that are afforded to people. Some less, some more, but on the average 3. The first one is either unrecognized, or they don't have the capital, or they don't have the insight to go forward. The second one usually is a failure, because it's the first time that somebody gets into business, and most businesses in the first 5 years tend to fail. More fail than succeed in the first 5 years of operation. And the third one usually is the charm. The third one is you have the experience, you have some capital or some backers, you have the insight to recognize when an opportunity comes and have the correct timing and the correct luck involved in making sure that the business works. And most people, if you read biographies, which I do pretty consistently, most people find that is kind of a pattern, where that business usually becomes a success because they've gone through the steps, to your point.
Great question.
So you were speaking earlier about how you had this vision of, well, there's a number of people, newcomers to Canada, that were having challenges, needed employment, and we're desperate for that.
Right.
Do you see that opportunity now?
Constantly. It's exactly the same. The ethnic groups have changed. It went from originally there was the business was owned by Jewish people. They were all the operators of all variety stores and convenience stores were from that ethnic group that came over either just before or just after World War II and established themselves in the business. After that, there was a number of small minorities that came. The Koreans brought a huge influx of people, all wanting stores. After that was Sri Lanka, East Indians, very few Europeans.
Based on what's happening on the world stage, like, you know, how Canada grew based on challenges throughout the world, and how we, as a wonderful nation, accept people more than any other nation in the world. And this seems to be the business, because it's simple, that they gravitate towards wholeheartedly. So,
not only that, but the Canadian-born opportunist is not really looking for a business. They're looking for a job. They want to work for a company. They want a career. They want to move from company to company. When I was young and starting out in the business, it was unheard of to change a lot of jobs. You either got fired or you worked at the place for a very long time.
25 years.
Because that was the ethic. Today, young people move from job to job as they see an opportunity to advance themselves, or to enhance their position, or to get a better position. But really, the ethnic people are here because they have no other choice. They need something to do to support their families. They're very hardworking, industrious people. And the Canadian-born person really doesn't want to work behind a counter and make an investment and buy the inventory and worry about whether it's going to be a success, when he has the education to go and work for IBM, right? And go home Friday night and watch the hockey game on Saturday night, and Monday morning go back to work. So our business is almost entirely ethnic. Like, we are the top ethnic employer in the country. And there's a reason for that. It's because nobody else wants to work in a store. Nobody else wants to stand in a small box, look at the same four walls day after day after day. It's like a prison. But, you know, if you need the opportunity and you have to feed your family, you do it.
Oh, wow.
Just wondering if you can help me to understand the value proposition that you offer your franchisees, and also, do you find that the owners of the franchisees are the actual ones standing behind the desk, or are they more behind the scenes?
Yeah, we've had both. Most, I would say 80% of our franchisees are owner-operators. They're there because the money that they make in the business is what they would have to pay a staff. You know, they're taking the earnings that they make, and they're taking that home as salary, basically. They build equity in the business because the businesses generally sell for more as they get established, and the sales go up than they did when we sell them to them. So
it becomes an asset like a house.
Yeah. So that's good. But we have had people that have operated numerous stores, and we have a master franchisee for the most part in New York City who has 30 stores of ours, and he does what we do. He's like a sub-franchisor. He'll bring people in to the business. He'll charge them so much a month, pay off the debt for the store. He'll finance the entire debt, pay it off, and at the end he's got a valuable asset that other people have worked to pay off. So it's a good system for him.
I've been struggling with one thing my entire life, is creating luck and the right timing. Timing and luck. You said experience brings that on, but sometimes I just can't see it. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think that's one of the problems. You know, obviously, when Bill Gates went to his idea, and somebody at IBM said, you know what, this isn't going to work. This just is not going to work. We're not interested. We're too big. We're building giant mainframes for everyone in the world. You know, take your idea and good luck with that. You know, had this person at IBM recognized the opportunity, he didn't, and it was his job to recognize the opportunity. Nobody would know today who Bill Gates was, because he'd have gotten a few dollars for his ideas, for his programming, and he'd have gone on to do something else. So all of those things, it's very hard for me to tell you how to recognize an opportunity. But I can tell you that luck comes to those who are out there looking, who are open to the idea of finding the right thing. And if I give you any advice, you know, we have tons of salesmen that come to our office to sell us their product. or to tell us their story, or to try to entice us into a wing of the business that we're not in. They don't do the research that's necessary to come into the office in the first place. The time to make the sale is in the pre-sale. To understand the business that you're proposing, to understand gateway newsstands and how we work. You know, I often like to ask people, have you ever been to a gateway newsstand? And they say, well, no, but this product is perfect for you. Well, how do you know that? How do you know that if you don't understand the gateway business? So my thing in all the companies that I've worked for and establishing Gateway was to understand the market. That's your job, to understand what it is that is the basis for your sale or your product or your idea. If you fully understand that, you're going to have an opportunity that you'll be able to recognize, and you're going to have a willing customer. Gateway will be much more interested in handling your product if you know why it's going to be good, and you know where it's going to be good, and you visited some stores and you're able to say, you know, at that university store, this product is going to fly off the shelves. In that hospital, this product is perfect for your hospital locations, or your hotel locations, or your casino locations. But in order to sell it, you have to understand the customer, and that's critical. And if you understand the market that you're in, and you don't go from drinks to clothing to, you know, pick a market segment, work it, understand it, go to the stores, go to the head office, work your way in, ask for some gum.
Could you discuss your marketing strategy then, if most of your people are ethnic? Can you talk about your marketing plans?
Well, you know, the business itself, as I said earlier, is very, very simple. We provide merchandise that goes back to the beginnings of Canada and the United States. When you opened a small town or a village in Canada, the first store that would open is the general store. And there you'd be able to get your plug of tobacco and some sarsaparilla and 3-penny nails and some clothing, a cloth for clothing. That was the store. We are just a variation of that, where our venue is different and our merchandise is much more expanded from those early days. But basically we're providing a service for a general service of daily needs for our direct consumers. Whether it be an office tower or a casino or a hotel, the theory is the same. So when we have a franchisee, we want to explain that to him, that he is the outlet for that area, that he must put himself in the position of the consumer. He has to be nice. He has to be courteous. He has to have the goods on the shelf, because an empty shelf doesn't sell any goods at all. And we will assist him, we will help him, and we'll give him money through the merchandising program, and we will make sure that the business model for him captures all the things that make the business successful. And we've had a lot of iterations of our business over the years. There's dollar stores, and there's drug stores, and there's all kinds of different stores that sell the same merchandise. We have to find our niche, and we have to put our franchisee into that model and make sure he understands it. Take over, boy. Well, choose Gateway is my fault, because I grew up in the business, and every place that I worked was in the business. So I didn't know anything else, and I was pretty good at what I did. And the natural thing for me to do was to open some stores. That was my first real opportunity out of the three. And I opened four stores called Premier Discount. They were mini department stores between 2,000 and 5,000 square feet, carrying a wide variety of general merchandise.
This is long before you.
Long before Gateway. And of course, I was in a period where I had loaned the money from the wholesaler who was supplying the goods, financed it, and in order to, because I didn't have any money on my own. Well, he wasn't charging me interest on the money because he was doing business. Well, then our Canadian government managed to move the interest rate up to 22% in those years, and he said, I cannot manage your account without charging interest. It's costing me too much money. Well, the business failed because the margin wasn't sufficient to pay a 22% interest rate on my debt. So he kindly took the stores away from me and sold them for a nice profit. And I learned a valuable lesson there.
Point, though, this is identifying, you asked about colossal fails, right? Yes, that was a failure, but I don't think, we obviously didn't steer away from that route business that he was familiar with. It eventually got to the point where it was an idea again many years later.
Yeah, it's to my earlier point. It's great to go from one industry to another industry to another industry, but it wasn't my intention to do that. I had lots of opportunities. This is a little off the subject, but when I was a young guy of 19, I desperately wanted a job at Eddie Match. Eddie Match made little booklets of matches before Bic lighters were invented. And we sold thousands and thousands of cases of matches that the stores sold, either gave away or charged a penny for a book of matches. And I remember the day I was interviewed, there were 3 other gentlemen there, and the interviewer said, why do you want to work for Eddie Match? And the people said, because we can sell the most matches that you've ever, you know, I'm a salesman and I can do it. And thanks, next. Well, I was the 4th person in, and he said, why do you think you're a fit for Eddie Match? And I said, because I want to be in the advertising business. Every match cover on the inside and on the outside had somebody's advertisement there. And that was how they made their money. I said, you're not making money making matches. And he said, no, we're not. We're an advertising company. And he recognized that. He hired me on the spot at 19. And then when they got my application, I filled out all the papers. I went home and I told my future wife, I got this great job, the dream job of my life. I've always wanted to be in advertising, like the Mad Men. I got a call to say, I'm sorry, but we have a minimum hiring requirement that you have to be 25 years of age, and you're only 19. So I got and lost the job almost on the same day. And he said, the guy who interviewed you never for a moment, I looked older than my age at the time, and never for a moment thought that I wasn't 25. So just one of those things. But your life can go in a very, very different direction. When I was working with Davis Distributing, I brought in various lines from outside the country. One of them was Foster Grant sunglasses. I was the first person in this country to bring Foster Grant up here, and they offered me a job after I got them established here in Canada with the first distributor. And had I taken that job, I might have been, you know, vice president or president of the company of sales or something at that point today after a long career, and it might have worked out well. But it was, again, a kind of a variance, a different direction from what I knew. And I was afraid, and I didn't want to move out of town because my wife had a very lucrative job. She was earning $55 a week in 1967. And our rent was $125 a month. So between our 2 salaries, we were doing quite nicely. You know, it's hard to imagine, but those were the times. And from that, I kind of got pigeonholed into the industry, into the people that I knew within the industry, and managed to make this career what it is. Not patting myself on the back, but a series of events that one thing led to another, led to another. Believe me, it's not easy. It's hard work, and you have to stick to it. You have to develop a plan, and you have to recognize the opportunities within that plan and capture them. And all those things don't come easily, and that's why I say no matter how smart you are, there's a certain amount of luck and there's a great amount of timing involved in success. So my career could have gone completely a different way, and you'd be poor today.
Any other questions?
One last question.
Sure.
You touched about being prepared and ready when you make a college. I think is terrific. What do you look for in a salesperson? What if, you know, we came in and we're pitching the same product, we both did the same, and it's not about price? What would separate us apart from each other to say, I want to do business with this person?
Well, I'm going to let Noah expand on it, but basically I would like to see that the salesman understands his product and his business, because too many don't. Too many salespeople feel that the product is going to sell itself and that they don't have to worry about either the product, the idea, or the service that they're offering. And I like somebody who comes prepared and knows what they're talking about. And if I can pick holes in what they're saying, then they haven't done their prep work. Because I shouldn't be able, on any presentation, I should be able to sit back and listen and agree with everything that's said and see exactly how that fits into my business. And if I can't do that, that's not a successful sales call.
Any other questions?
Perfect. Well, right on time. You guys are very good.
I need some water.
Thank you very much, Noah and Michael, for speaking from the heart and for sharing your wise words today. So we're going to wrap up. We do have some food and coffee left over. If you'd like to stay and network, please, you're welcome to. The room is available. And yeah, meet somebody that you don't know. Our next event is May 24th, and it will be Frank Valeriani from the Air Miles Group speaking. So we hope that you can make that. And if anybody has any questions, we're here to help. Thank you.